In this video, I'm going to describe how to automatically update the application after you've already downloaded the application installer to your local disk. You can only perform an automatic update using an installer that's stored on the local file system. That's why we had to download it first, and it's strongly recommended that you only do this automatic update after you've checked your version numbers, and I showed you how to do that in the previous video. For this demonstration, I'll use an application named executeupdate.mxml. This is very similar to the application that I used earlier. It has all the code to download the application from the website, and then the code to compare the version of the currently running application against the version that we want to install. If you go back to the application descriptor for this application, you'll see that this version of the application is still on version 1.0. So here are the steps. I'm going to add code to do the update, then I'm going to install this version of the application. You can only execute an automatic update using an application that's already installed in the local operating system. Then at runtime, I'll execute the update, first checking the version number. Let's go back to the code. Go to the compare versions method that currently is returning void. Change its return data type from void to Boolean. Then go to the if-then clause that's comparing the current version to the desired new version. If the current version is less than the new version, return true, and otherwise return false. Now we have a function that we can use to determine dynamically whether we're eligible for an update. Go to the doUpgrade method. This method was added to this version of the application already and is being called upon a click event of the button labeled doUpgrade. Here are the steps. Create a variable named updater, data typed as the updater class, and instantiate the object using the updater class's noArguments constructor. The next step is to create a file object. Declare a new variable named installerFile, data typed as a file object, and get its location using the same syntax as we used before when we set the location of the file that was downloaded to the disk. File.desktopdirectory.resolvePath, then pass in the name of the installer file, myAirApplication v2.air. Finally, do the upgrade. Call the updater object's update method. You'll pass in two arguments. The first is the file object that points to the Air file that you've saved locally. I named it installer file. The second is the literal value of the new version, 2.0. Now this value must match exactly the version number as described in the application installer's descriptor file. And you may remember back in the earlier video when we created the version 2 installer that this is the version number that we put in, 2.0. Now, wrap all this code in an if clause. You only want to call this code if in fact you're eligible for the upgrade. So you'll call the compare versions function and then wrap all of this code into the if clause so that you'll only be doing the update if in fact you're eligible for it. Then add an else clause and use the alert class, always selecting the alert class from a list of classes to make sure that you put in the required import statement. Then call the show method and pass in some error messages. Application can't be upgraded, and error. Now you're ready to package and install the application. You can't run the updating functionality from an application that's running in debug mode. It has to already be installed on the operating system. So now use the export feature to export a release build. From the menu, select File, Export, Release Build. Select executeupdate.mxml as the application, and then change your export to file value to myAirApplication v1.air. Click through the screens to export the release build, providing a digital certificate where necessary. And then, when you say that you want to finish the export, you'll be prompted to overwrite the existing Air file. Click Yes. Then go back to the Flex Navigator view and double-click to open myAirApplication v1.air. Notice that it shows you that you have an installed version of 1.0 and a version to be installed of 1.0. Click the Replace button, and this will ensure that the latest version of the application has been installed. You'll know for sure that you have the right version because you'll see the Do Upgrade button. And if you don't see the button, then you'll know that you might have missed a step. Now we'll execute the upgrade. Click the Do Upgrade button you'll see that the application closes and then reopens with its new look, showing that it's now in version 2.0. So those are all the steps for managing automatic updates to Air applications. Once again, the old version of the application must know the version number of the application it wants to update to. You can provide that information either hard-coded in the application as I did in this demonstration, or you could perhaps post an XML file that the application could download and inspect at runtime to find out what version is available. Then to actually execute the updating, you download the Air application to the local disk and then use the updater class to perform the update.